following my September 12th report, which provided background about the pressure, the mounting pressure that Charlie Kirk was under from pro-Israel forces, from Netanyahu's cutouts in the United States, I gathered more details. The piece, it hit like a sledgehammer. It really caused a lot of, I think it spoke for a lot of people, particularly within the conservative movement, which is changing among the youth on the question of Israel. And more people started coming out, and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who was close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States. Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seemed to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith, to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress. I didn't say Republican critic, I just said premier critic, because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission. Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter, but he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
And he was under an increasing amount of pressure, not just people telling him, oh, well, you know, I'm upset with who you're inviting, but flat out telling him that he was not allowed to invite certain people to his events. They were threatening to pull out money. Charlie was getting a lot of really nasty text messages, and many of them pertaining to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. But Tucker Carlson was really the focus when it came to America Fest. How could Charlie allow these debates about Israel to take place? How could he allow Dave Smith, who, by the way, is Jewish, how could how could Charlie allow this other position to meet the stage? Because obviously when people start to hear the debates, what Dave Smith is saying sounds so rational, but it was up to Charlie to not allow those things to happen. And that amount of pressure towards the end, as you see that conversation he had with Megyn was just a month before he lost his life, really, I would say, reached a pinnacle of sorts on the matter of what Tucker Carlson actually said on that stage. Tucker Carlson, while he was on that stage at Turning Point, brought up Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman is a billionaire, obviously. He is also an extremely litigious billionaire. And Bill Ackman was on Charlie about comments that Tucker Carlson had made on that stage. Tucker Carlson specifically asked the question, where does Bill Ackman's money come from? You know, who is this guy? Actually, who is this guy that has this much influence? And like I said, Bill Ackman was not happy about this. And so I would like to contextualize Bibi. Again, these are things Bibi brought up publicly, which he didn't have to. He didn't have to bring up the letter. He didn't have to bring up the phone call, but he chose to do this less than 24 hours after Charlie Kirk was shot. Personally, Bibi, I would have appreciated if you guys used all of your spyware. You'd spying on us for years. to maybe track down the killer, but I guess this is where you thought it was best to do a little propaganda for Israel would be better than us helping us track down the killer. But anyway, so Bibi Netanyahu in that phone call, what took place was a couple of weeks ago before Charlie lost his life. Charlie was in the Hamptons and he had more than one event, but he had essentially what was staged, an intervention was staged by Bill Ackman because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset and threats were made. That is what I am told, and I will tell you that I am very happy for Bill Ackman to dispute this narrative. In fact, he was asked to dispute this narrative. Max Blumenthal went out to him today, and Bill Ackman came back and said, I have receipts I can show you, and he did not provide the receipts. This is not how it went down. I know it went down this way. I'm waiting for one of them to go on record and to say that it didn't go down this way. It was at this time that Bibi Netanyahu was called and Charlie was invited to Israel. This was an under duress situation, I would say, because I've been in these situations before. When I started asking very sensible questions about Israel as someone who had dedicated her political life to supporting Israel, many times alongside Charlie Kirk, I was met with the very same pressure. And just like Charlie was being invited to Israel, I was invited somewhere else. And when this arrived to me, it felt like a threat. You know, I got to tell you that. It felt like a threat, like not like, hey, come here and we can educate you because you're my friend. More like, this is your last chance. That's how it felt to me. I can't speak to how it felt for Charlie. And I know that Charlie was offered a ton of money in this moment, a ton of money. Bibi would fund it, you know, spend tons of money. And Turning Point, I guess, if it needed to go to a higher level, would have gone to an even higher level than it already was at. And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding, that Charlie denied, and what Bibi didn't include there, he declined to go to Israel for, I would describe this as like, you know, re-education camp. You know, we've seen it. You made an uh-oh, but we can help you. You know, we just need you to come out to Auschwitz and take a picture. Yeah. We just need you to come to the Holocaust Museum and take a photo. We just need you to go to Israel and we can make this better. Charlie said no to Bibi. Okay. Bill Ackman, if you would like to dispute that, I would love to hear what you say happened, because our sources and what we have, it's solid. Okay. There were conversations that took place, messages that were sent at that time, and they are solid. So I decided another person that was there, and I am not surprised this person was there. If you've been listening to my show, Seth Dillon, I was going to go out to Seth Dillon, and I decided to message him last night about this Hamptons meeting. And Seth Dillon, who is normally very quick with a response, has not yet been able to respond. I'll show you this text message chain. And I want to be clear, I am not someone who normally publicizes text messages. But my friend was shot in the neck. And I'm just not really in the state right now to be polite when it comes to the answers that I am demanding, okay? This is me out to Seth Dillon last night. I sent him Bill Ackman's tweets because, you know, he tweeted, I feel incredibly privileged to have spent a day and shared a meal with Charlie Kirk this summer. He was a giant of a man. I said, any comment on this one, Seth? He didn't answer last night. This morning I said, need a comment ASAP, please. He didn't answer. Then I followed that up and I said, trying again here, you were present when Ackman lost his mind on Charlie and when Bibi invited him to Israel and Charlie refused. Text messages immediately following this meeting are circulating. I find Ackman's statement, as though the meeting was somehow cordial, to be incredibly disturbing. Are you at all disturbed by that tweet? Do you feel, as I do, that this tweet significantly betrays the defined purpose and mood of his, and I presume your, final meeting with Charlie Kirk? ? He was unable to speak to me, but he did place some frantic calls to Turning Point USA. Yeah. You see, I went out to Seth, but I also went out to two other people who were at this meeting, and nobody is willing to go on record. They're all messaging each other, trying to figure out a coordinated response to say that, no, this was all quite cordial, but no one wants to go on record and describe it as cordial because they know someone's leaking, because someone's got a guilty conscience about what happened at the Hamptons. So I will again put it out there, Seth, Bill Ackman, and to the other individuals who I have not yet named, but who are going to be named later this week, who were at the Hamptons when Charlie was put under pressure, when Bibi Netanyahu called him and invited him to Israel, again, in a move that when it happened to me, and it wasn't Bibi Netanyahu, felt to me like a laced threat. I am inviting you guys, I will give you my platform, actually, to come clear matters up, to tell us what really happened. Because, I think Charlie was definitely on the brink of changing some of his perspectives. And I can tell you factually, Charlie was praying the rosary. Charlie was going to mass. One of my last conversations with Charlie was me joking with him saying, just make the last step, okay? You are, I said specifically, you're too smart to be a Protestant. Just take the last step, Charlie. And he says, ha ha. He was speaking about Mary. And typically when those steps start taking place, you stop referring to yourself, as I did, as a Judeo-Christian. Again, it is mystifying why, Bibi was out there doing the absolute most to make sure that Charlie was basically remembered as, I would argue, like a Jew, has not been yet mentioned. I didn't hear that. Erica was very clear that Charlie was a Christian, and I believe Charlie obviously was very much a Christian, and that things are not being told truthfully. In fact, I will also call upon, since we're having fun, Turning Point USA to release the audio of what Charlie Kirk, because I was in communication with Charlie at this time, because I knew exactly which donors were pressuring him and why, exactly which people that they were insisting Charlie allowed to speak at his event and why, when Charlie did not necessarily want those people to speak at his event, okay? I'm calling upon Turning Point to release the footage of what Charlie said to Tucker Carlson before he hit the stage, before, all of that craziness and the response to Tucker Carlson's remarks played out. Charlie was mic'd. Surely Tucker Carlson was mic'd. I know Charlie's mic'd the entire time at those events. So I'm asking for everyone to just release Charlie in his own words. I feel like that's pretty fair, right?